Alright, this is my demo for the OmegaRace networking project. I'm going to cover some of the things that I worked on, mainly go over some of the main points such as making the game data-driven, how the lobby works, and how the different objects in the game move and interact with each other. So here on the screen is the host solution being displayed. Off screen I have the client solution open. They're both on the same machine, so the network connection is going to be established locally, so the game should work pretty well. So here I'm just going to jump right in. So if I press space, I jump into the lobby for the host solution, and here it says welcome to lobby. It's pretty bare bones, and I can press H to host, and what that does is it creates a server object and essentially establishes it for accepting any incoming connections. So here it says you are currently hosting. It lists the host server IP and the port number and any connected clients, which there aren't any right now. Now off screen, I can jump into the lobby for the client, and if I press J on the client to join, it'll say connected to the server, and now in the host side, it'll say that there's a new client that has been connected. Pressing space again will send a message, will send the first data message across to the client, and it'll take both of the solutions into the play state. Now here I can move around. I have a player ship, the green one, that I can control on the host side, and if I jump into the client side, I can control player 2 ship separately. And you can see that all of the updates are displayed across both, so that even though I'm not controlling the player 2 ship on the host side, its movements are displayed accordingly. Going back to the host side, so everything in the game is data driven. Very few actual events take place on the client side. Everything happens on the host side, and updates are sent accordingly so that the proper information can be given to the client, so that everything can be displayed correctly, so that whoever's player 2 can see it as if they're running their own game. So I can shoot a missile. I can shoot up to 3 missiles, really. I can move around. I can lay mines. I can interact with the fences. I can interact with the mines if I wanted to as well. I can hit the player ship. I can shoot the player ship, and I'm pretty bad at this. I can shoot the player ship, and the ships will update for how many lives the player has left this round. The kills and deaths get updated accordingly, and all this is happening on the client side as well. So there are no collision events that take place on the client side. Everything on the client side is just the sprites that are moving and being updated based on the data that's being sent from the host. So the different types of messages that I send, they include the player input message, the player update message, which both sort of indicate if I press any input keys to control the player on the host side, and then the player update message sends over the X coordinate, Y coordinate, the angle, and for the corresponding player it can update the position of the sprite on both sides. There are fence hit messages, missile hit, mine hit, ship hit, which all indicate different actions that need to be taking place if any of those objects detect a collision with any of those objects. A fire missile message can be sent to indicate that a certain player has fired a missile, and that'll create a new missile object on both sides. A lay mine message will do the same thing except for mines. All data passes through input queues and output queues on both solutions, so that everything can be managed in a manageable way, in an orderly way. There are no data messages being sent directly across from the host to the client or vice versa. Everything passes through one of these output queues or input queues. So yeah, now moving on to some of the more specific details about what is sent. To move the ships, I send the ship positions, and that is updated on the that is updated on the host side, and only the updated positions are sent to the client so that the most recent position can be displayed. Now, if I were to interact with a fence, the collision is detected on the host side. It goes through the different handshake process of determining which objects were collided, and then, for example, the ship has its own onHit function call, which performs the corresponding actions, which, for example, changes the physics of it. The fence has its own onHit method call, which spawns the animation and the sound that you see. And these methods themselves are not called as a result of the collision handshake process on the client side, but rather anytime one of these onHit methods is called, a corresponding data message is created and sent it over to the input queue, where it is then processed, sent across the wire to the other solution, and then processed in the game manager accordingly. I do the same thing for the bombs, although there's no position changes that need to be done. The only things that are being detected with the mines, are whether they have been collided with. The missiles act similarly to the ships, where they can be fired, the position needs to be updated, and then any collision updates need to be tracked and need to be kept track of. So yeah, I'm gonna just go through and play a couple of cycles, and here I can switch over to the client side and also move the player 2 ship, so I can I can shoot down the player 1 ship. I can do that. I'll try to get a point here for player 2. So as you can see, this is happening right now on the client side, but the host side is also displaying all of this correctly. So now, if I jump back into the host solution, I can act as player 1 again. Now you can see that everything is being updated correctly, the kills and deaths are being reported. Obviously, if you run both of these side by side, you can see that everything is happening accordingly, even though you can only see the host solution right now. So yeah, hopefully I can do this somewhat quick and I can win really easily. But you can see that I can lay mines. I can try to hit I'll try to get the player to hit a mine. And you can see right there that after the player 2 interacted with a mine, the mine disappeared, the ship disappeared, the kills and deaths were updated accordingly. Alright, now I'm at 2 points. If I get to 3, I will win with the player. So here, I'm trying to some of the more difficult tasks that I had to deal with when doing all of this was making sure, okay, and now you can see that once the score of 3 has been reached, it automatically says that player 1 wins, and this is shown on both the host and the client. So now I can press space, I can go back to the load screen, and I can press space again to go back to the lobby where it says I'm still hosting, there's still one client connected, none of that changed. I can go back to the lobby screen right now, and I went to the client's lobby, and now I can jump back in and a new game has been started. So yeah, this can run for at least a few cycles. I'll probably only run for part of this one, but some of the more difficult things that I had to deal with was the movement of the ship, making sure that the angle was correctly positioned. Initially, a lot of the collisions were still taking place on the client side as well, and I didn't have a good system for making sure that everything was done accordingly, and because of that, there were a lot of bugs that I encountered quite sporadically relating to duplicate missiles, ships not being updated correctly. Maybe if a ship disappeared, it wouldn't be updating again, and this was all related to multiple collisions happening on both the host and the client, which is why I got rid of all collision detections on the client side. Another thing that I really had trouble with was making sure the missiles worked properly, because again, I had to make sure that I was constantly sending the missile update messages across so that the missile could be shown like animating and moving across the screen. One of the more interesting things that I had to deal with was if I shot a missile towards a fence post, like I did right there, occasionally it would register the missile as colliding with two different objects on the host side, so there would be two missile deletion events being sent over to the client, and this would cause the missiles to update incorrectly. And I had to essentially deal with this by creating separate missile IDs, and ship IDs, bomb and player IDs for all the different objects, so that as they're created on the host side, an object could be created with the exact same ID number or ID value on the client side as well, so that these phantom collision events wouldn't happen, and that even after various collision objects, everything would still work correctly. So yeah, that's everything that I wanted to discuss. I had a lot of fun making sure that this worked. Networking is one of those topics that I never had too much experience with up to this point, and really seeing it all come together and running this project on two separate machines and seeing it all work out was really satisfying. So yeah, I'll be posting this video and uploading my solutions now. Thank you.